All right, so welcome everyone. So here we'd like to talk about the second most important section of our course, that is the creation of this energy burst reaction in a radial way. So let me just gonna first of all take you uh, to the render that I just created with the help of the software render particles. This is we're gonna talk about for our upcoming lessons. Okay, so here in case you can see that the there are two kind of things which is very noticeable. First, no doubt there's a pattern of the energy that is being um, going from the you can say from the sword. Let me just take you to the alpha mode. So here is the sword, and here the reaction is getting proceed in a radial fashion. But the two interesting things are, you can see, one is the energy over here, and another is these kind of streaks. These streaks are very, very important, and the good thing is that you could control them by the way, or in any of the way you want. You want them in more numbers, you want them in less numbers, or even you don't want them. These are being under your control, which is something very, very cool. All right. So according to my artistic decision, I would like to keep them up on a minimal level, and I also don't want them that they shouldn't be the part of the reaction. Yes, they should be, but they should be a little bit less. Okay. So I think so. You must have got the basic idea that I'm just talking about. And one thing more I have to say regarding this reaction is that my own personal belief is that the hardware render particles in terms of the visual appearance are giving a little bit, slightly little bit more impact as compared to these soft render particles. But there are again some advantages, there are again some upsides and downsides using the hardware render particles, like the way I said you in the beginning. Once you wanted to zoom into the reaction, you want to take the camera towards the sword while the energy is getting burst, so you won't be able to notice that much of the, you can say, the level of the detail, because the point particles do have a problem. Once you started approaching them close, they'll start losing their volumes, not the volume I must have to say, but the kind of the form which they should have to maintain. And the way, if you get yourself a little away from them, from your camera, from the distance of the camera, they'll start appearing in you can say a little bit more in the opacity, or you can say in the look and feel and the behavior. Once you just started going towards them, they start losing their uh, shapes. Okay, so let me just gonna close that up, and we'll come back to our scene file. So the rig of the reaction is going to be pretty much simple. We're going to create three sets. We're going to have two sets of the particles and one set of the fluid. Obviously, the story will going to take place in a way like there will going to be a volumetric cylinder, and that will going to burst out the particles. The first particle would be called as the parent underscore burst, and the second would be calling as the child underscore burst, and the child will going to emit from the parent one. Okay, so till now we're going to create this one, and the moment we'll start entering into the fluid section, we're going to talk about that. So first, let's go to the FX menu, and under the N particles, we're going to go for the create emitter. So here I would like to go for the volumetric, and let's say in the beginning we like to rate particles to 6500, 6500 particles in the beginning, and the speed random, let's say it remain 1, no problem. The away from the axis should be given to 60. Or I do one thing, I'm going to reset the whole settings, okay? So that will be easier for you to recognize things. So again, I'll go back to the volume mode, and let's say we'll give 6500 count, which is the rate particle per seconds. And let's leave this attribute speed random for this moment. The shape will have to be the cylindrical, and you notice one thing, that if we have changed the type to the cylindrical, there is parameter called away from center will going to get ignored, because there isn't any utilization of this attribute when the volumetric type is a cylinder. However, this attribute will going to reflect inside this attribute setting, so be careful. So we're going to utilize the away from the axis. So to create the burst, we'll have to give it a little bit of the energy. Let's say 50 would be a good start. The random direction has to be, let's say, 5 in the beginning, and this attribute is very, very important. Consider that the point that we talk about regarding the streaks has to get a lot of link to this attribute, that is the random directions. Okay, there is a kind of a linkage between this attribute and the streaks. Okay, we'll come a little bit later on this once I just start getting settled with the rig setup. So just create that up, and of course we're gonna select this and select this. I'm gonna go for the snap line objects and align objects. Here we have the mid and apply. All right, I'm gonna switch off the mesh selections, so it would be easier for me to concentrate on that. And we're gonna increase that up to approximately 2 and dip it down from the y-axis. Okay, that is perfect. So if we're gonna play the timeline, you may go see that a lot of the particles are coming off. But this is again not the way we should be expecting our particles. The particle rate count is already too much high, but this won't gonna add up in that way. We need to key this stuff. We don't want the particles to remain inside our scene for uh, let's say after 25, 30, but even in fact they are the bigger values that I've just told. We like the particles to get stopped even just after 15th or 12th frame. So first of all, we key that up and drag the timeline to the 10 or maybe 15. Key that stuff again. We need to go to the graph editors and put that thing back to 0. And I'm going to use the step tangent because I just want a burst of the energy. I don't want that thing to get slowed down as the time proceeds. Okay, and it may be possible that we're going to come back to this and we're going to change that up. Maybe we like to go with the 8500 particles depending upon the type, because I've also observed that you need to play around with 2-3 attributes, but the result will going to be 90%. The according to your expectation, it will gonna burst out. But still, in case you feel that things are not taking place according to yours, because if you're gonna even change the resolution of your fluid container, it will do start giving some little bit kind of the subtlety or change in the reaction. But 90 to 95%, the reaction will going to be the same. Okay, so moving further and moving forward, that was a very important change. And first of all, let's just open that outliner. So I'm gonna name that up first of all. Let's say parent underscore burst. Okay, and let's say p dot emitter. So it will be easier for me to recall and recognize. And I think so. These are the important settings, and the next important thing would be to create under the emitter. There is something called the cycle emission. This is the most important attribute for the soul. This is basically, I must have to say, the soul of the reactions. Okay, so if I'm gonna put that thing to the frame, and let me just play the timeline for you, you're gonna sense that out what I'm talking about. Okay, so just keep in mind, guys, this is the most important attribute for our reaction. Okay, so I'm getting myself to the hold, and we'll be proceeding in the next lesson to cover the further section of this course. All right, so see you in the next lesson.